enchaîne parce qu'on est en retard. On posera des questions en même temps. C'est toi l'animateur?
Oui, plus ou moins, oui. Est-ce que c'est... Ouais, moi après, oui, si tu as ça.
I can do pas. Je sais pas si les gens...
Je pense que si.
C'est bon, tu peux y aller.
Donc c'est Mathieu de Quaternion qui va animer la table ronde. Et j'en profite juste pour dire un petit mot pour pourquoi moi je suis ici. Donc je m'appelle Sarah, je suis la coordinatrice d'Artilect Architecture, la section architecture du FabLab de Toulouse. Voilà, donc qui existe depuis 1 an maintenant. Vous pouvez voir 3 réalisations de la section sur le festival, le tunnel bioluminescent, le stand d'accueil donc qu'on a rénové et le stand d'Artilect qui est un mur interactif. Voilà, donc maintenant je laisse la parole à Mathieu.
Bon, juste un mot, on va parler anglais pour la suite, ce sera plus simple comme tout le monde parle anglais. Et éventuellement, je traduirai à certains moments j'essaierai de traduire à certains moments s'il y a besoin. So then, we're gonna start with a really simple question for all of us because we are all dealing with digital tools every day, and some people who are not used to practice those tools are wondering, are those tools gonna replace the human intelligence, or are they gonna replace the handcrafters? So what is your point of view about that question? Like, are machines somehow superior to human?
I'm just going to go quickly. I have always the same answer. It's technology is the answer, but what was the question, as Cedric Price said. So I think it's going to always depend on what question we ask at the beginning and what we want to do. I don't think they're going to replace. We always have to ask the right questions.
Does it work? Yeah. I'm on the same line. I see computers as an effective tool. Parametric design, algorithmic logic, it's an effective tool, but who is using it is a creative designer, and it allows us to do things fast. It allows us to do things that are more complex that we could do by hand, but it's still just a tool. The computer doesn't do anything unless you tell it to do something.
Yeah, again, I agree with your point of view, obviously. But I think what we have to keep in mind is what we can achieve when we use both digital tools and traditional techniques is much better than what we can do if we use it apart. Like, of course, computers or machines will be more efficient, faster, stronger in many works. But in other works or other tasks, our brain and our hands are more suitable to work than the machines. So we have to find the balance in the projects where we are using our brain or our hands, and where we're using the technology to design or to fabricate.
And I would also like to point out there's a good line of thinking that usually the answer is always somewhere in between. What do you use? It's a combination of everything. If somebody says to you that, okay, I will do this completely using this one tool, I will do this completely in scripting, I will do this whole project completely with this one machine, that's usually total bullshit. I mean, you have to take advantage of the methods that are best, and they are always a combination of different things than just one.
Yeah, because basically yesterday we were talking about the Chinese 3D printed houses, and they plan to build such houses in Africa, and we were wondering what is the point of printing those entire house, and because there is people there is material there. So what is the point to replace humans by machine for this kind of work? Because yeah, you are somehow you are. Yeah, those people are some intelligence, and they develop local techniques to build house there, and they have a strong background behind that. So they know how to use earth, for instance. They know how to deal with local tools. And if you start to put a 3D printer there and to replace them by that 3D printer, you might forget some important things like climate things, like local material, local tools. So that's why somehow we cannot replace that intelligence by a machine. I think we are all agree on that. And as now the design gives tools like those, like in the case of WikiHouse, you are providing somehow plans and layout to build yourself a house. What kind of interaction you can give to people? I mean, do you think that people are able to build or to design themselves a whole house, or they can only do some part of a house? Or what kind of level you put to give people the ability to design themselves the design of a house, of a furniture?
Is it to me? Legally in France, you don't need an architect to design a house until 170 square meters. So basically, people were designing their homes and are designing their homes. You don't necessarily need to be an architect to do a house design. So there's nothing new in that. But with certain softwares, you can change the interface and therefore facilitate the way people interact in the design. But then it's going to be, again, about setting the rules. So in that role, the role of a designer is going to be design the rules and design the interface so that the user can adapt, the rules to their needs. So WikiHouse, as I've said, it's a proof of concept. It's just a system. But what we're really designing is an interface for the users to be able to access, the technology, the digital technology we're talking about. But you can interact in different ways. You can help to build so that someone that is not able to build can do it with certain support. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, but I was wondering, okay, the rules allows people to design themselves a house till 160 square meters in France. I don't know how it works in Finland. Toni maybe can give us the answer just after, but I was more talking about, are people ready to design themselves? Okay, they're already doing that somehow, but sometimes it's quite, the result is not that good, or it's not that good. It could have been better with an architect. So that is the point of my question.
Okay.
Are people...
Do we need architects?
Do we need architect? Or if we do not need architect, what kind of tools an architect can provide to people to design themselves a house?
Okay, so first of all, if you're building a house, you're gonna need to make sure it doesn't fall on your head. So you're gonna need an engineer. Then style is a personal preference. So do you need style? If you consider architect as someone that suggests you a certain style, then it's going to very much depend, do you care about style? Do you consider an architect as a superior being that's necessary for the society? It's a bigger question. So it very much is going to depend on the way you want to see you as an architect. Well, I have the personal answer for that, but I think it's a question that every architect is going to ask themselves in years to come. Do we need architects?
How it works in Finland, Toni?
We need architects to build houses there, yes. We don't have that limitation of the square meters that you need. You can build without an architect. We don't have that. And just adding to that, architects don't go to architecture school just to learn the law or the way to build. We also learn there how to design, and that's a big part of the education. How to design a house. It's not a simple question. It's not that you just hand out a SketchUp to somebody, tell them how to, let them learn how to use that, and they will build a house that is functional, beautiful, and so on and so on. It doesn't happen like that. You have to learn also the process of design. So it's not just the technicalities there.
I think, well, I'm being an architect for years. I quit like the professional architecture that you guys are doing about 3 years ago it was after the second crisis in 2011. And I think design is for the user, and it's very difficult to, if you ask about 80% of people is what do they really need, I'm not sure what we're providing today as architects regarding the market, because it's, we are one thing, but the market is a different thing, is really what the people are looking for. So I think what you say, design is a very important thing, but design for the user, I repeat again, as an architect, for people that live in homes, for people that are going to use something, is the key. And how do we as architects design for the user? It is quite complicated. It's just not about the design as a form, but the design of the service that is living. Yeah. That's another thing.
And I'm really a fan of your work, because actually what you are doing, you're building the process behind it, kind of process of design that allows people to tap into your knowledge through that process. It's a very effective work.
I'm thinking about, we're talking about the design process, but like a building is not only about the design, it's also about building itself, the fabrication process. And here I think we need an architect to be able to communicate with every person that is involved in the process, because the communication between every and each of the persons that are involved is not that easy. As architects, I think we are trained to communicate with these different companies and different type of knowledge, and we manage to give one information to another person that in a way that everyone can understand. We don't have the full knowledge on everything, that's for sure, but at least we have enough knowledge on many of the topics to be able to communicate with everyone in the building process.
For me, the Wiki House is very, very good project. I love this project, but I'm questioning myself. In France, you don't need an architect to build under 150 meters. But I think it's a problem. I think in the society in France, it brings a lot of society problem. What do you think about that you live in France? What do you think about that everyone can be an architect of his own, but architect is not only question about style, it's also about functionality and life condition. What do you think about that?
Can you summarize, like, what do I think about the role of architect in France, or what do I think about the fact that we don't need an architect until 100? It's interesting. I don't know, it's an experiment that doesn't work like that in different countries. UK, Finland, I think most of European countries, you do need an architect to sign a project. What do I think about that? I think it's self-build is something that I find extremely interesting. It faces different questions. It's like, can I ask my friends over to my place and build a home? I find it's extremely empowering. But then, imagine the city that's being self-built. It's maybe, a different scale of a problem. I find it's, from a society point of view, self-built and auto-construction, I think it's considered. I find it's a fascinating phenomenon that we can see in different places of the world, like Brazil favelas. Those things should be studied to understand the way that a simple person, like a normal person, thinks about the lived-in environment, so that then it can be used to maybe adapt the way we think about lived-in environment. But then we're always faced with some sort of regulations in a bigger scale of housing that we can't avoid. But I think the self-built environment is an interesting area of experimentation. But then we're always going to have the good experiments and the bad ones. So, well, that's what I think.
Yeah, and as we said before, I think architects knows about uses, about atmosphere, and this is part of our formation as an architect. Like during our studies, we are learning those things. And also, I also want to point that when we are building, we are building in a really precise site. We are not building for everywhere. In the meantime, with the same. It could be actually the same process, but you are not dealing with the same material, with the same issues everywhere. If you are building in the north or in the south, I think Toni can speak about that, because there is not the same regulation. Again, there is not the same climate. So you have to adapt the design to the site, and that is part of the architect task. And no one knows those things instead of the architect. Or the engineer as well, but when you need an architect, you also need an engineer, or an engineer cannot cannot design house, so you need both, I guess. So yeah, that is a really good question for the wiki house, because how can you adapt the wiki house depending on the site? Like, I mean, you showed us different kind of prototypes, but they looks more or less the same, or they are dealing with the same material. So how can you adapt the conception or the design of a house depending on the people who are living there first, and then the climate?
So there I'm going to point into your work and say there are different ways, there are different technologies, there are different people thinking about different ways of using digital manufacturing and dealing with the design process. What we are doing with WikiHouse, and we've dealt with WikiHouse, was, as I said, a proof of concept of simply putting on the table that, yes, as an architect, using digital manufacturing and is very interesting and can go very far, and this is our long-term reflection. But then you're using different machines and trying to do facades. Then there are guys from MX3D, they're using robotic arms to do bridges. There are guys in China doing the big 3D printers. But what we're doing at the end with the open chain is, again, building an interface so that it becomes accessible, and so that the market, the built-in environment, adapts to those technologies. So we've done our proof of concept years ago. It's open source, so it naturally comes with a community that is, tinkering around, trying to use it to work with students in architecture schools, or just simply to, I know there is a fantastic Japanese architect using it for, actually I was surprised, situation of, how do you call it, like earthquakes and stuff happened next to a factory of plywood, and they had like loads of plywood that they had to use, and they used that. So, there are many uses of that, but you should not block on one way of using it. And people are going to come, going to tinker with machines, and they're going to find something new. But it's all about how do you provide interfaces so that, using very, very complicated software doesn't turn an architect into a coder. And how do you, develop those interfaces so that we can use them, easily. And that's what we're working on. But we're not alone, and there are other people that are doing it, and we're very happy to work with everybody.
I think it brings us back to the first question, actually, where the tool we choose just depends on the question that is asked, as you said. And like sometimes we're going to use a process that is already designed because it answers well the problems there is. If, for example, it's about answering emergency crisis, housing crisis somewhere, we're just going to need to use a process that has already been made with materials that are locals, for example, and tools that are traditionals, because we have a blackout. There is no electricity anymore. So, but we can think about these problems before they happen. That's the thing we can do. But that was just to add about what you were saying. But I was wondering, we were talking about the design process earlier, and one question I'm asking myself a lot is, we're using a lot of tools now, design tools and fabrication tools that are more and more complex, and we're architects. We're not like technicians at first, but we go into these tools and try to learn them and use them, but we still need to discuss with the client, with the user, and how can we become a part of a work that is more collaborative with the user, and how can we facilitate the discussion with the clients thanks to these tools? I don't know if you have any opinion on this, but that's really a topic that I find really interesting.
We're running a bit out of time, but yeah. Before question, I have a last question, or let's say it's more a challenge. So here we are in the big hall of our FabLab. So my question is, in just few words, what could you dream about that place? What can you, if you are the architect of that place, what can you imagine for that place? What is your project? Here, I'm talking about here, because usually this space is empty. So what could you dream about that space? What can you make it? If you are the architect, the head of that place, what would you make it here?
If I were an architect,
yeah, Toni. I mean, if you were the architect of that place, what could you make here?
What is needed? What is that the user wants? What is that user needs? What are the requirements?
The question is, like, they need a flexible space. They need to make many things there. It's like a FabLab. I mean, like, so what can an architect can provide to allow people to make almost everything here?
Tapping on to the previous questions, as architects, and especially us, this bunch sitting here, instead of designers of individual objects, we are more or less designers of processes and designers of systems. So in that sense, the shape of architecture is changing from the design of individual beautiful objects to the design of systems. And kind of relating to that, answering that, you would need to devise a system that would be functional, aesthetical, easy to use, easy to design by the community and to change to the needs required.
We were already talking about with Nicolas. I know we're going to sit down, we're going to have a workshop, and we see what you need, and then we're going to help you if you need our help. If you want to dream, I don't know, maybe I'm going to fix, you know, those things first. I don't know.
I mean, you don't have any precise idea
what precisely,
like building
how to use this space.
To fill that space with only with a wiki house, or making wiki house everywhere. No, I mean.
Yeah, okay. I know, fix the problems first and then develop as you need to go. You know, no huge wiki house yet. Yeah. Maybe later.
Okay. Well, is there any question in French or even in English at that point? No? Ah.
C'est pour une question pour vous. J'étais émerveillé par l'esthétique de votre travail sur le bois, mais je pense que vous avez dû rencontrer certaines difficultés quand vous avez voulu imiter un arbre. Parce que un arbre c'est comme ça, et l'endroit où c'est le plus solide, c'est quand il y a les ramifications. Et vous êtes obligé de couper le bois à l'endroit des ramifications. Et donc, comment vous assurez cette solidité qui va à l'encontre du bois?
connection. Yeah, a collection of a branch. You're not just it's following the design of a branch, tree branch.
So the question was, did I have Okay, it was translated to me. Hopefully I can answer. The system used to design the tree structure Can you?
What's the detail?
Comment on assure la solidité là où il y a plus besoin de solidité, où l'arbre naturel continue, et comment vous assurez l'assemblage. On donne l'image d'un bois, d'un arbre qui est une structure merveilleuse.
Yeah.
I think what it's saying is that this note becomes really weak, but in the trees it's like one of the strongest points. So how do you resolve this problem?
In the pavilion, all the connections are. Maybe this is something we can discuss later. Yeah.
It's really precise.
Another question? Yeah. Oui. Vous avez le...
Oui, bonjour. J'ai une question pour le WikiHouse. Je me demandais en fait quel était le modèle économique que vous êtes en train de promouvoir, puisque c'est à la fois de l'open source, mais aussi derrière, donc il y a des gens qui travaillent, des architectes, donc une fondation et puis d'autres intervenants. Et donc je me demandais justement, à terme, vous dites vouloir en faire une preuve de concept, mais ça va forcément déboucher sur quelque chose qui rentrera aussi en concurrence avec d'autres modèles. Et voilà, je voulais savoir si vous y aviez déjà réfléchi. Et...
Je vous réponds en français. C'est la question numéro 1 qui tombe toujours quand on parle de n'importe quel type de projet open source. C'est quoi votre modèle économique? Donc pour la fondation WikiHouse, le modèle économique est très simple. Nous, on a 10, c'est une fondation qui reçoit le financement de nos partenaires qui travaillent avec nous sur OpenChain. Donc en fonction de projet, si on veut avoir un salaire, on a un salaire. Donc les gens qui travaillent sur le développement de la plateforme, c'est des gens qui sont embauchés, qui sont payés par nos fonds propres. Après, sur la question de est-ce qu'un architecte... Voilà, donc ça c'est la réponse sur le modèle économique de la Fondation WikiHouse. Après, sur la question de concurrence, nous, autant que la Fondation WikiHouse, on n'a pas forcément... Notre concurrence s'appelle Bouygues Immobilier. On n'est pas forcément sur le même marché aujourd'hui. Je pense qu'à un certain moment, on va tout simplement travailler ensemble. En question des architectes, peut-être plus, qui vont proposer un modèle open source, je pense que c'est plus ça. C'est que dans le moment où la plateforme WikiHouse OpenChain sera développée, ça correspond finalement à une plateforme Airbnb dans laquelle un architecte propose ses compétences avec un modèle de portfolio. Donc finalement, si on a un modèle WikiHouse, si ça reste du WikiHouse fait avec du contreplaqué, mais qu'on veut modifier, tout simplement, on choisit un architecte disponible sur la plateforme et on va travailler avec lui en modèle finalement traditionnel. Et si jamais un architecte développe un modèle que nous, on valide, entre guillemets, en tant qu'un modèle disponible sur le site, donc là, ça va correspondre à une façon de paiement à travers la plateforme. Mais forcément, le premier moment où l'architecte va développer ce modèle, ça sera pour un client, donc il va forcément il sera forcément payé par son client. Donc dans le futur utilisation de ce modèle, ils perdent rien parce qu'autrement, de toute façon, il n'aurait pas été payé. Mais comme ça, il y a un revenu en plus. Donc il y a plusieurs choses qu'il faut rentrer dans le détail, mais comme OpenChain n'est pas encore et la plateforme n'est pas encore en point, c'est pas encore testé, mais on va commencer petit à petit pour tester et puis améliorer en fonction de besoins.
Okay, it was the last question, so thank all of you to be there. And thank you. Okay, thank you.